everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of Burning Questions with Brooke. Joining me today is Toby Newman, who has graced our Opera Roanoke stages many times. And we're just going to dive right in and start asking her a couple of questions to help you get to know her a little bit better. So Toby, tell us, you've played several roles with Opera Roanoke, and what's been your favorite so far, and why?
They were both very different. I really enjoyed doing the Susanna, but I think for me, my favorite was the Handel, simply because I adore Handel, and that was a really important moment in my career because it was my first Handel role. So that was very, very special for me, and it was a wonderful and satisfying experience. So thank you, Opera Roanoke, for giving me my first foray into. I had done a lot of Handel oratorio, but I had never done a full Handel opera role before. So that was very special for me.
Well, good. We're glad we could give you that opportunity. And it was wonderful. I have to say, I very much enjoyed performing Susanna with you, because you just were a wonderful characterization of this extremely pious woman, and it was beautiful, and I loved every moment of it.
Oh, it was so much fun. We had a good time, didn't we?
We did. We had a great time. We had wonderful attitudes the entire production. So now that you've mentioned that you've played a pants role in the Handel, tell us what a pants role is, and how do you find it different doing a pants role as compared to doing a female role, and is it more challenging? Tell us a little bit about that.
So a pants role is a role written specifically for a woman to play a male. It is often sung by a mezzo-soprano, although not always. There's some pants roles for high soprano as well. And it is often, but not always, supposed to be a kind of adolescent age male. The thinking is that it is most likely a young man before his voice has changed. And so both physically, his physique is a little more younger and less masculine looking. And
he
also
doesn't have the muscles
yet. To be higher. Exactly. And also his voice is going to be higher. And you're not going to, given that we don't have miking in opera, it would be very hard to find even an incredibly talented 10-year-old boy who can sing over a full orchestra. So we get women to come in and do those roles, but they are written for women.
Good. Do you find it to do those roles more challenging or less challenging? Which do you like better?
I love doing pants roles. I absolutely love doing pants roles. I actually think that unless I'm playing a woman in a modern opera, I think that there's an element of not just acting, but a shift in physicality in your acting that goes into your operatic performance, even when you're playing a woman. So if I'm doing a period opera and I'm playing a woman, it's very different. I hold myself differently. I'm going to act very differently than I do as a woman in 2020 who wears jeans and sneakers. So I think it's interesting. People are always so curious about the physical acting element of pants roles, but so much of opera is period acting, and we're not used to wearing corsets and big gowns and holding ourselves in that way. So I'm not sure that it's that much different, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm going to shift gears totally now.
Sure.
Tell us who's influenced your career. Are there singers that you look to? Are there teachers that you look to that have sort of molded you into the singer that you are today?
Sure. I am a huge fan of some of the classic, mostly British, actually, mezzo-sopranos. Janet Baker is, the the sort of the idol. She's the queen, especially, when you, so often you ask singers who influences them and they start talking about other singers that sing the same roles as them. So for me, the queen, the recordings that I always love listening to, Janet Baker. For singers who are currently on the circuit, as it were. I think one of my favorite mezzo-sopranos right now working today is Sarah Connolly, who actually, and anyone watching this, if you're not familiar with her, speaking of Handel's Julius Caesar, go and Google her playing Caesar. Her, not only is her singing stunning, but she's really a masterclass in pants role acting. She's phenomenal. So
yeah,
she's another
wonderful.
influence.
Well, it's good that you have people from the past you can look to, and then also people who are performing right now.
Absolutely.
And that's what YouTube is for.
Yes, it is.
So did you always know that you wanted to be a singer, or did you, how did you get into it?
I have a very non-traditional, non-straight line, bizarre background story. I've been singing in choir ever since I was about 8 years old. I had an incredible music teacher. I was reading, I was sight reading by the time I was 9 or 10 years old. Music was always a part of my life. Singing was always a part of my life, but I never thought I would pursue it. I knew adults who sang in, community choirs, and I just always assumed singing would be part of my life, but I always assumed it would be part of my life as an extracurricular. I did not go to school for music. And I, in my early 20s, was working and singing in various community choirs. And I decided to take voice lessons to enhance my experience in those choirs. And one thing led to another. And one crazy day, I just said, let's see how far this can go. And I started pursuing it professionally.
And you've been doing it ever since, and doing a wonderful job of it.
I have, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about, I know that you sort of perform lots of different kinds of music. Tell us what it is about opera specifically that you like.
I love opera, and first of all, opera can span many centuries. It can even nowadays span different styles. Opera to me is theater and music and singing combined. And I love that because I love the full storytelling of it. Yeah. I love when music is used to further a story. As a performer, it's a lot of fun to not just be a musician and be a singer, but to be an actor and to be on stage and to be thinking about text and thinking about drama. So I love putting that all together.
Yes, and you are a wonderful actor. I very much enjoy seeing you on stage.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to get into just a little bit of your personal life, if you don't mind.
No
so you're married to another opera singer.
I am.
And I don't know how you do it. And
it's very loud in our house.
Yeah, and you also have a young child, so who's very cute, by the way. How does that work? How do you guys make that work with your schedules and with your practicing and your performing? How do you go about that?
Let's put it this way. It's very helpful to have grandma who thinks that there is nothing better in life than to be an unpaid traveling nanny. I'm just going to be very honest about some of the juggling. It's not easy. You pick and choose what works, what makes sense. And also keep in mind, keeping yourselves, your artistic needs satisfied as well. You don't lose your person when you become a parent, but things shift. So there have been jobs that, I've turned down because we want to stay together as a family, and jobs where, my daughter was 3 months old, and myself, my daughter, and my mom flew to Alaska, so I could do 2 back-to-back gigs, one in Juneau and one in Anchorage, and my husband went off to Spain, and it was the longest he had ever been. He had never been away from our daughter. She was 3 months old, and sometimes you make these sacrifices, but it was an incredible experience.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge, but also really wonderful that your daughter is getting to experience all of these different places at such a young age.
You should see her passport. It's impressive.
Yeah, I bet. So she'll probably have a travel bug when she's older.
She might, although I always joke that she's going to grow up and rebel and become an accountant. So
also great. She can do your taxes.
Really.
Okay, so our final question of this segment is, you have sort of an affinity for new music. So we're talking a lot about opera, but new music is something you're also very much a part of and into. What is so intriguing about that?
I love stretching boundaries. I love playing with things. I am not a composer. I would never claim to be a composer. People say, oh, you should write your own music. There are people who have that talent. That's not me. But there is a creative element in new music that is not the same with older music. With older music, there is something that we refer to as performance practice. There's a way you do it, whether it's how you sing Baroque music this way, you sing Romantic music that way, or this is how you act this role. You are playing the role of Cherubino. This is how he holds himself. This is how he acts. And when you make artistic choices outside of performance practice, you are either doing something that is artistically irresponsible, that's not how you do it, you clearly have not done your homework, or you're really making a huge statement. One of the things I love about doing new music is there is no performance practice. And so there is a creative process to the performer that it's just an added element. I always say I love doing new music because I can get my grubby hands on it. It is mine. And then if I'm doing a world premiere, that becomes the performance practice. How Toby Newman chose to do it is the performance practice.
That's amazing.
So that is incredible. Also, I love working with living composers. I remember I was doing a world premiere opera, actually the one that I was doing in Alaska when my daughter was 3 months old. I was doing a world premiere opera, and about a year before the performance, while the composer was writing it, I get an email from him, and he says, "What is your yummiest range?" You know, Mozart never consulted me.
He never asked. I mean, come on.
And this composer actually wrote this role with me in mind. And when the opera was picked up by the company, he said to them, he said, "Look, you're going to hire who you're going to hire, but I just want you to know that I had Toby Newman's voice in mind when I wrote this role." And that is enormous as a performer. And then to be able to take it and play with it in a way that there are no constraints. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I think having the opportunity to work with a composer is probably just unbelievable. I mean, just to get all of that insider knowledge right from the source and really understand, what they're going for. Well, Toby, it's been so wonderful to talk to you. I wish your family all the best and all the health and all the peace and clarity right now during this challenging time. Yeah. But it sounds like you're fairly isolated where you are. So, maybe just get to enjoy this time with your family. So I wish you the very, very best.
Oh, and all my love to everyone in Roanoke. I just have such fond feelings for Opera Roanoke and the whole team and the city of Roanoke as well. So just sending all my love for health and safety to everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Toby.
Bye, Brooke.